Bocca al lupo.
Attenti all'audio.
Eccoci qua, ragazzi, benvenuti da tutto il mondo, siete già tantissimi, un saluto, oggi una puntata scoppiettata, partiamo subito, il primo ospite, parleremo un po' in italiano, un po' in inglese, Ringo da Virgin Radio. Ciao grande
ragazzi.
Ringo!
Ciao ragazzi!
Ciao Rocche!
Ciao.
Io sono Max, Bon Jovi Club Italia, Luca 250 concerti dei Bon Jovi e Maura che farà l'interprete perché dopo di te ci sarà un ospite internazionale, fotografo.
Ciao, ringrazio.
Ciao a tutti, guarda, ci stanno seguendo dall'Argentina, dall'Inghilterra, dalla Spagna. Hi everyone, we talk a little bit in Italian, a little bit in English. This is DJ Ringo from Virgin Radio Italy, so just a little bit patience for everyone, and we talk a little bit with Ringo now, ok? Ringo, benvenuto nella casa del Bon Jovi Club Italia.
Grazie dell'invito intanto ragazzi, thanks for invitation.
Benvenuto.
Perfect.
Cosa state cambiando? È un bel party questo, vedo, eh? There's so many people here. It's gonna be a nice party.
Yeah. There are fans from all over the world, right? Because Bon Jovi is not only Italians, right? So there are many special guests. So we have to talk in English because
quello che volete. Io italiano, inglese va bene.
Tutto bene.
Okay.
Ma no, guarda, restiamo sull'italiano con te, che è meglio, ma poi tanto avranno tutto Bergman in inglese, quindi...
Infatti.
Okay.
Ci sarà tutta la seconda parte in inglese. So, guys, from all over the world, we talk a little bit in Italian now with our...
Mi metto così, è meglio?
Perfect. And then will be David Bergman directly after DJ Ringo. Ringo, allora, hai visto questa... Allora, innanzitutto complimenti perché il tuo staff e Virgin Radio sono sul pezzo con i Bon Jovi. Io vedo le news, vi seguo, le condivido, e news perfette e spettacolari, quindi davvero grazie di cuore per tutto il supporto che date ai Bon Jovi in Italia.
Vabbè, ma lui è un grandissimo della musica, anche l'ultimo singolo lo stiamo passando, ci mancherebbe, ma anche per il rispetto che abbiamo per lui, per quello che sta facendo adesso, per come aiuta, è sempre disponibile. Fa tanto per il New Jersey, ma fa tanto contro la tragedia del coronavirus. È un cuore buono, dai.
Sì. È una caratteristica del New Jersey aiutarsi in questi periodi. Infatti hai visto poco tempo fa per il Relief Fund Jersey for Jersey, lui, Bruce, si sono messi insieme dalle proprie case e hanno raccolto i fondi proprio per aiutare la comunità locale. Poi lui soprattutto...
C'è tanto sangue italiano nel New Jersey.
Sì. Sono
50-50, vai.
Sono tutti tamarri inside come noi, vedi, rocchettari, sporchi, insomma, belli trucci. Senti, io volevo parlare con te per quanto riguarda la situazione attuale dei tour, degli album. I Bon Jovi hanno cancellato il loro tour, non l'hanno posticipato per permettere ai fan di avere il rimborso del biglietto, mentre molti artisti posticipano. Sappiamo che la situazione non è semplice. Tu cosa ne pensi?
Questa è una domanda bastarda, mi tiri dentro.
È questo che la gente vuole sapere.
No, già, guarda, il mio telefono in questi giorni è un massacro perché tutti i miei amici mi chiedono del Firenze Rock Festival, del High Days Festival, del Rock the Castle Festival, del Lucca Summer Festival. Erano tutti virgini, anche Eric Clapton, anche Paul McCartney, insomma. E tutti mi chiedono, ma noi non è che possiamo dare una risposta ben precisa, a parte che tutto il mondo ha rimandato tutto. La risposta sta agli organizzatori, magari alla Live Nation, eccetera, eccetera. Noi siamo la radio ufficiale. Vedo che molti artisti hanno rimandato la stessa data su per giù dell'anno 2021. È possibile farlo, lo hanno fatto. Chiaro che molti si aspettavano invece la cancellazione per avere il rimborso del biglietto e decidere poi più avanti se comprarlo ancora, no? Comunque i soldi sono tuoi. Sì. Qui entriamo in qualcosa di... staremo tutta la serata a parlare di quello. Io non voglio tediarvi con... già è un momento che è un problema per tutto. È Conte che parla ieri sera, tutto un meme, tutto un video, tutta una protesta. Non è un bel periodo, non siamo in un bel periodo, no? Ma tutto il mondo.
Assolutamente.
Quindi,
sì, infatti noi cerchiamo
nei momenti di caos e di pandemia come questa ultra spero rarissima, più unica che rara, ma in questi momenti tante cose non funzionano.
Esatto.
Sì. Chiaramente poi il nostro settore di conosco, perché chiaramente con il Bon Jovi noi organizziamo eventi, serate in Italia. Adesso riprendere l'attività anche nei piccoli locali credo che sia abbastanza difficile, però non entriamo nel merito, cerchiamo di
domani se vi interessa, domani a mezzogiorno sono ospite della diretta Instagram con Nuzzi, giornalista di Mediaset, dove parleremo proprio dei locali, perché nessuno ne parla. E ci sono 70.000 lavoratori d'Italia, ma purtroppo al governo non hanno mai menzionato quella categoria, c'è un po' di arrabbiatura. Questo non è che vuol dire solo parlare di discoteche. Chi fa spettacolo sono gente che smonta i palchi e che li rimonta le luci, chi guida, chi porta il pullman, il van,
le crew,
chi fa da mangiare, i catering, cioè ci sono 70.000, 80.000 persone che lavorano attorno allo spettacolo, che va dalla discoteca al locale, al concerto estivo, al big festival, no? Cioè, lo sapete. Peccato, questo è un dato di fatto, il governo non l'ha neanche menzionato. Questo lo dico perché molti miei colleghi mi dicono, Ringo, dacci una mano, parlane quando puoi, perché ma domani parlo di questo, cercherò di smuovere le acque. Ripeto, per adesso il marchio Bon Jovi è quello che si è comportato in modo più lineare di tutti.
Sì, noi diciamo chiaramente da fan non siamo chiaramente con i paraocchi, siamo anche abbastanza critici ogni tanto nei confronti della nostra band, però in questo caso il leader John Bon Jovi credo che sia onestamente ineccepibile per quello che sta facendo.
Un po' virtuoso con i concerti con noi ultimamente.
Mamma.
Ma io
per ragioni non dipendenti da lui, io ho
avuto modo di parlarci con John l'ultimo tour e
gli ha detto la verità.
Mi ha detto la verità, insomma, quindi io ci credo e poi qua chiaramente poi lasciamo.
Vuole fare un cazzo, John.
Così.
No, sai lui adesso cosa ha fatto? Siccome chiaramente Pico Torres ha quasi 60 anni, lui ha detto che
calma col tono sui 60
con l'età.
È lì che volevo arrivare, perché ieri quando ho sentito gli ultra sessantenni ho detto cazzo, io ne ho 50, mi sento un trentenne, ma gente come...
Data.
Eccolo, capito? Come cavolo fai a stare in casa? Cioè, ma stiamo scherzando, vabbè,
Il
comunque.
rock and roll mantiene i giovani.
Bravo.
Guarda
vero.
Jagger, tu guarda Jagger, guarda sempre lui, con dei dubbi guarda Jagger, non c'è altra
Guarda
spiegazione.
Perché Jagger è impressionante, l'ho visto negli ultimi 2 concerti anche 2 anni fa, ma come cavolo fa a essere così? È impressionante, è un esempio per me.
Sì, sì. Beh, noi rockettari siamo tutti così, Ringo, onestamente, no?
E devo dire che, non dico John, lo tengo un po' da parte, ma il resto della sua band, insomma, e i Rolling Stone, come li hanno vissuti poi gli anni?
Sì.
Mamma.
Sì, esatto, esatto.
Io ho avuto piacere la prima volta di incontrare John con la band negli anni 80, abitavo a Los Angeles.
Gli anni d'oro.
Ho abitato fino all'86 a Los Angeles, poi sono tornato qua per fare altri lavori, altre cose, e l'ho incontrato un paio di concerti, non so perché l'ho incontrato in tante volte nella carriera, no? In varie decadi, quindi, però c'ho lui in mente questi capelli lunghi che parlavamo, anch'io ho i capelli lunghissimi, no? Sì, anch'io ho avuto i capelli lunghi ai tempi dell'air metal, e
Guarda.
Però sti ricordi di lui sorridente, c'è tutte queste ragazze che gli ronzavano attorno a Los Angeles, eravamo in un locale, doveva scappare perché era corteggiatissimo già all'epoca.
Vabbè. Posso farti una domanda collegandomi a quello che hai appena detto?
Sì,
Se
no,
non
io non ero
sbaglio.
corteggiato.
No, vabbè. No, se non sbaglio, se ho sentito bene, hai detto di aver avuto modo di incontrarlo più volte nel corso degli anni, nel corso delle decadi, mettiamola così, è giusto?
Sì, le prime volte a Los Angeles era più divertente perché siamo incontrati, sai, al Rainbow, nei locali rock dove si frequentava.
Proprio.
Sì, i classici,
Dopo
sì.
tante volte nella vita, ma sempre comunque mi tenevo
Ufficiale.
Perché dovevo
Ok, quindi
intervistare.
era un'altra veste, quindi già la situazione influiva, ma così, a pelle, ti ha dato
Però mi dico
l'impressione
una cosa, quando l'ho incontrato, anche ultimamente, sempre, ehi, come stai Ringo? Allora tu si ricorda sempre, mi
si
emoziona.
ricorda.
Si ricorda il
C'ha
mio nome
memoria
tutto.
lui, eh?
Guarda, una
Sì,
cosa
sì.
che ti posso dire è che se lui si focalizza un nome, lui lo segue e non
Se lo
se lo
ricorda.
dimentica. Se lo ricorda
Sai cos'è?
sempre.
Forse aiuta anche il mio nickname Ringo, devo dire che ha aiutato molte
Sì.
volte, però dai, ma Maura, cos'è che mi stavi chiedendo? Scusa, ti ho interrotto.
Ah no, scusa, mi stavo perdendo anch'io in realtà. L'impressione che hai avuto tu, avendolo incontrato così tante volte nel corso degli anni, sei comunque sempre riuscito a ritrovare sempre la stessa persona, certo più matura, oppure ti sei trovato davanti a una persona sempre diversa?
Lo
Io
stronzo.
ti giuro, lui è uno dei pochi che lo vedo anche come mi sorride, quando mi rivede. Ciao, come stai? È un po' che non ci vediamo, no? Qualche anno, però devo
Così.
dire, no, ti metto a tua... Porto un po' d'acqua anche al mio mulino. Anche io contribuisco quando lavoro con queste persone, comunque non è che la metto sul... perché anche innervosissi troppo quando fai interviste, dall'altro lato li metti un po' in discussione, cioè loro si mettono un po' poverino,
Sì,
Si chiudono un po', tendono a...
Sì.
Quindi non
Sei
ho problemi.
accomodante.
Che ho molti amici che si conoscono in America nel campo musicale, quando vedo che sono un po' in difficoltà tiro fuori un po' di nomi che sono amici comuni, il che rende tutto molto
più
semplice.
facile.
Però non è il caso di John, perché adesso siamo qua con voi che lo amate alla follia, ci mancherebbe, però è una persona squisita lui.
Sì.
Lo sappiamo.
Quando vuole. Allora, no, aspetta.
Mille altri artisti che invece erano un pain in the ass.
Anche lui le sue giornate no, però diciamo che mediamente
Sì,
sono più quelle sì.
John ha vissuto un periodo a cavallo tra il tour del 2000, 2001, 2003 che non si è capito bene, probabilmente è successo qualcosa, è rimasto un attimino col freno a mano tirato, era un po' inavvicinabile, il palco un po' più distante, eccetera, eccetera.
Sai
Invece
cos'è?
poi,
Vabbè, a parte i cazzi propri che abbiamo nella vita, quelli ci
bravo,
abbiamo.
si è aperto un
Tutti.
po' e alla fine è andato.
Però a volte anche i manager si mettono di mezzo, fanno un po'...
Sì.
Con i manager non è facile.
Sì, poi...
Se tu gli dici al manager c'ho le palle girate, dilli che lo vedo fra 5 minuti, John, il manager da te fa non vuole vederti, ti vedrà fra 3 giorni. C'è da 5 minuti. No, mi dovete aiutare, perché stavo pensando, qualche anno fa, tanti anni fa, che ero a Radio 105, avevo fatto un concerto a Milano con lui, ed ero sul palco con lui ha fatto un palco col bar, non mi ricordate che...
Era il
Ma che
95.
era?
No, lui ha fatto
95, esatto,
L'acquatica,
no?
L'acquatica.
Sì.
Grande, ecco, perché dicevo quanto mi ero divertito quella sera sul palco.
Bello.
Sì, sì.
Quanto mi ero divertito.
Sì. Quella era un tour,
è
stato un tour della Madonna, quello del 95. Lui
è uno dei più belli.
Il 23 maggio è stata la prima data europea e quindi era stracarico.
Io ero sul palco come 105, ma all'inizio non mi sono reso conto. Laterale, poi dopo eravamo un po' di ospiti, una decina di persone di ospiti, ma fu un'esperienza meravigliosa ed è stato il primo a darmi un'esperienza del genere. Poi mi hanno invitato sul palco anche altri, quindi con lui anche il ricordo questo dell'acquatica fantastico.
Sì, decisamente.
Il primo.
Sì. Poi c'è stata una situazione particolare in Italia nel 2001 in cui lui non stava bene, il concerto è durato 1 ora e mezza allo stadio Euganeo di Padova, poi è venuto all'Heineken Jamie Festival nel 2003.
Io ero venuto anche a Udine, ero venuto a Padova.
Ecco.
Udain. Sì.
Udain è entrato nell'immaginario. Ecco, qua c'è il concerto di Milano, il vostro manifesto con Virgin Radio, bella stella rossa, bellissimo. E Udine e Milano sono entrati nell'immaginario. Qua, quando ti abbiamo portato la foto autografata della coreografia di San Siro, e questa qua peraltro, e qua siamo io e Mauro che ti abbiamo portato la gigantografia che tu giustamente avrai regalato a qualcun altro.
Io c'ho tutto conservato, guarda, non ho più spazio per tirarli fuori.
Sì. No, poi questa foto qua grande te l'ha comprata una nostra amica Alessandra Piccioni, che lavora per il Corriere della Sera.
Ciao Ale!
Non è carino che la chiamate The Pigeons,
Ma lei non noi abbiamo questi nomini, The Pigeons, Magus.
Sapete cos'è The Pigeons?
Sì, certo, non lo diciamo. Non lo diciamo. E quindi
ma voi quante volte, adesso vi faccio una domanda, quante volte mi rispondete tutti, l'avete visto?
No, non fare questa domanda a Luca.
A Luca lo fate tutti.
Allora, Luca è personaggio quasi. Allora,
Luca,
io mi
ecco.
Qualcuno 245.
Sono tante, ne date io una decina di volte.
Luca credo che sia
30 anni.
È un orgoglio italiano perché lo conosce tutto il mondo, è il fratello di Tour, solo che mi ha stracciato perché lui mi umilia sempre, no? Quindi adesso lui ha raggiunto 250, che è una roba che io dove vuoi andare?
Ma quando poi uno inizia non riesce a fermarsi.
Ma ci sono anche delle leggende, ci sono delle leggende e dei miti intorno a Luca. Si vocifera che quando John non lo vede in prima fila a un concerto si preoccupa e chiede di lui. Ci sono voci di corridoio che dicono.
Diciamo, più leggende che lo dicono.
Esatto.
Sì. E soprattutto Luca adesso sta cercando di fare il tour mondiale perché gli manca un continente, giusto?
Mi manca l'Africa, mi manca solo l'Africa. L'ho visto in tutti gli altri continenti, Asia, Oceania, America, Nord, Sud, Europa, mi manca l'Africa. Infatti spero che torni in Sudafrica per poter concludere questo mio obiettivo. Vedremo.
Speriamo.
Beh, complimenti comunque, è un attaccamento.
Grazie.
L'attaccamento, tutte le passioni che abbiamo, essere attaccati alla propria passione è qualcosa di bello. Poi che sia musica, sport.
Sì, qualsiasi cosa.
Però coltivare una passione così in modo come fai te, 245 lui, mamma mia, complimenti.
Ma poi è bello perché c'è tutta una rete di amicizie che ti crei, di persone che hai il piacere di rivedere in ogni parte del mondo. La cosa più bella è che quando saluti qualcuno gli dici alla prossima dovunque sia e quando sarà. cioè, può essere davvero in qualunque parte del mondo, tu rivedi lì qualcuno, cioè visi familiari, visi, è davvero
Per la
bello.
prossima volta invitatemi e lo vediamo insieme.
Certo.
È normale che la prossima data in Italia, ma sai che vabbè,
sì.
adesso non è più una novità, lui avevano pianificato il Circo Massimo a Roma quest'anno.
Posto degno di John.
Esatto, lui ama
Ma
queste
rientra un
cose.
altro nella band?
Eccolo là. E non lo sanno neanche loro, Ringaccio, non lo
Me lo
sanno
chiedono
neanche.
tutti in radio, non lo so, come faccio a dirlo? Cioè, magari avessi queste, no?
Non lo sappiamo, noi abbiamo avuto una leggera speranza quando sono stati introdotti nella Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, dove gli hanno invitato veramente anche Richie Sambora. John ha scritto una canzone esattamente per loro, proprio era un messaggio per Richie, però mi sa che non l'ha captata proprio bene. E
Ma
quindi,
dai, voi sapete qualcosa, cacciate fuori, ditemi la verità.
no, non lo sanno neanche loro, davvero.
Purtroppo no.
Sai come funziona?
Ma che è successo veramente? Voi lo sapete.
Bevuto.
No,
Magari lo sapessimo.
no, non si possono dire queste cose così. Cioè,
Vabbè, comunque spero che un giorno possano far parte.
Lo sperano tutti.
Perché
Guarda,
comunque...
ci hanno dato... Oh, scusami, vai.
No, dico, io adoro le band quando poi mantengono i componenti delle band per tutta la vita, è bellissimo.
Le origini. Sì.
Capisco perfettamente che è come una famiglia, quindi anche le mie famiglie possono scazzare, cioè è normale.
Sì.
Ci sta dentro, no? Scazzano i mariti e le mogli, stare in una band comunque come una famiglia.
Sì. Guarda, ci sono leggende su John e Richie di tutti i tipi, però la verità è che semplicemente Richie non ce l'ha, ha mollato lui perché non ce la faceva più a stare dietro ai ritmi dei Bon Jovi e a suonare.
Quelli lì,
quindi...
da giovani, cosa hanno combinato, le donne che avevano avuto, guarda.
Beh, soprattutto nel Neverending Tour, quello a cavallo di New Jersey, quando sono venuto a Milano nell'88, Roma e Firenze, è durato 3 anni e praticamente Maura,
sì?
stai digitando, si sente che stai digitando, si sente che
ma falla digitale che te frega.
C'ho la cuffia, mi stavo attaccando, cavolo.
Lì... Ma il tempo, Maura. My life.
Basta che non parti con Runaway.
Ecco, Runaway diventa...
io. Mi dovete rispondere tutte e 4.
Sì.
Ditemi la vostra canzone preferita in assoluto.
This Ain't a Love Song.
Okay.
Never Say Goodbye.
In Disarms.
Te vuoi... Tu?
No, la mia These Days.
E io in Disarms.
Bella, Disarms. Bella. L'album preferito?
These Days.
Slippery.
Io sono rimasto attaccato a quel periodo.
Certo.
Io lo amo
Los
quell'album.
Angeles, c'era l'Air Metal, stavano nascendo i Guns, stavano nascendo 1000 altri gruppi e c'erano i Motley Crue, e quando arrivavano un Bon Jovi andai a vedere una sera all'Hollywood l'Hollywood Theatre, e una cosa non ho mai dimenticato del concerto, sto parlando 86 penso, 85-86, non ho mai visto così tante ragazze in un colpo solo.
Grande.
Cioè in pratica sembrava l'urlo era solo femminile, non ce n'erano pochissimi uomini, e io ho detto io amo Bon Jovi,
buon motivo.
Grande.
Sentite ragazzi, vi lascio continuare tra di voi.
Va bene.
Grazie dell'invito.
Grazie a te.
Grazie a te.
Grazie a te.
Grazie a te. Mito.
Ci vedremo, ci siamo fatti una promessa che il primo
Certo.
concerto in zona, diciamo
Sì.
Italia,
In
zona, si può fare lo sforzo, anche se a Londra ci vengo volentieri anche a Londra. In
Certo.
zona si potrebbe andare tutti insieme.
Assolutamente sì.
Grande.
Certo.
Assolutamente sì. Promessa.
Ci vogliamo il concerto in qualche bella città europea magari.
Chi lo sa?
Volentieri.
Quello
Appena potremo tornare a viaggiare, ragazzi.
No,
non ti dimentichiamo.
No.
Non ti dimentichiamo. Lei è una grande fan di Renato Zero. Non dimenticati. Ringrazio, è stato un piacere, è stato...
Grazie.
Grazie di tutto, grazie.
Del tempo e dei tuoi aneddoti.
Divertitevi
Grazie.
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 Assolutamente.
Anche con te.
Anche con te.
Ciao.
Rock and roll.
Grazie,
Ciao.
Ringrazio.
Ciao,
Ciao.
ringrazio.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Okay, guys, so the people from all over the world, thanks to join us. Grazie a tutti gli italiani.
Grazie ragazzi.
Dunque, adesso chiaramente noi abbiamo già gli altri ospiti. Maura, provi tu un attimino a mandare un messaggio a Bergman.
Vi ho già scritto, ragazzi, vi ho già scritto a riguardo.
Ok. Ok, perfetto, scusate, non avevo letto. Quindi, bene, diciamo che la prima mezz'ora con Ringaccio è stata fantastica. Noi salutiamo tutti quelli che ci stanno guardando da tutto il mondo. Abbiamo Sonia Alfani, Cinzia Boldi, Rosa Lopardi, Alessandra, Daniela, Francesca, Chiara, Silvia, tutti
And all our English guests following us, don't worry people, we will speak in English very, very soon when David Bergman arrives, he is about to arrive. Don't worry, if you don't understand this little Italian part, don't worry, so just keep on waiting 10 minutes and the next guest will be with us. Max.
Ok, perfetto, quindi adesso parleremo un po' in italiano, un po' in inglese e in attesa del prossimo ospite mandiamo qualche commento che ci arrivano dei ragazzi, mettiamo, visto il mio amico Hasan, Sabine, Giorgia, hi guys, mettili a rotazione. There are people, you know, from Italy, from Argentina, United States, Didi, Nika. So it's fantastic. Really, very, very, very international edition today. So davvero grazie. Quindi in attesa che si colleghi Bergman, noi prima abbiamo parlato del tour che chiaramente è stato cancellato, l'album è stato posticipato, probabilmente c'è una data, ma è il 30 di ottobre, però chiaramente tutto potrebbe cambiare perché ne sia, comunque quella data lì è stata fissata. E poi la settimana scorsa c'è stato il Jersey for Jersey dove John ha cantato Do What You Can. Mara, vuoi introdurre per gli amici inglesi così poi partiamo con il video?
Yeah, we were mentioning the fact that a couple of days ago took place the Jersey for Jersey, and it was amazing. I think that you all saw the full version of Do What You Can from Bon Jovi, the original version, and he also sang Living on a Prayer, a wonderful acoustic version. And also these days he sent his greetings to a hospital, and he thanked this hospital and all the workers, the frontline workers, with another wonderful acoustic version of Who Says You Can't Go Home. So now we will play all these videos to make people see these things that happened last days. Max.
Ok, perfetto. Partiamo con il video Do What You Can e poi abbiamo subito il prossimo ospite, David Bergman.
Between the metropolis of Manhattan and Philadelphia is the state of New Jersey. Some will say it's a state of mind. Others will say it's a mythical place. Well, it's my home, place I was born and I was raised. Tonight we're here to entertain you. We're here looking for that virtual hug. We want to thank all the doctors and the nurses, everybody who was out there on the front lines to get us through, and we will get through. Sit back and enjoy. 1, 2, 3.
Great, right? Do what you can.
Tonight they're shutting down the borders, and they boarded up the schools. Small towns are rolling up the sidewalks. One last paycheck's coming through. I know you're feeling kind
Bella questa, Luca.
Speriamo che la mettano anche, dovrebbero metterla nell'album questa alla fine.
Sì, verrà aggiunta come traccia in più
bonus,
all'album, come bonus, sì.
Esatto.
This ain't my prayer, it's just a thought I'm wanting to send. Round here we bend, but don't break. Down here we all understand.
Anche se Luca è un po' di parte, lui continua a preferire la sua versione piuttosto che
non sarebbe mai se mettessero quella.
Vabbè. Ti immagini? Testo originale su un album dei Bon Jovi, Luca.
No, quella me la faccio io per conto mio.
Mi sto un po' abituando a vederlo in questo studio. English friends, I'm kind of getting used to seeing him in this studio playing music these days.
I love this song. I really love this song.
I hope he doesn't sell the house anymore.
Yes.
Doctors, nurses, truckers, grocery stores, man in the front line. I saw Red Cross on the Hudson. They turned off the Broadway lights. Another ambulance screams by.
Wow.
C'è anche il commento milanista, però,
ragazzi, non so se avete avuto modo di controllare il nostro sito Bon Jovi Club Italia, ma trovate testo e traduzione della canzone, se non avete ancora dato uno sguardo.
We're gonna get through this together until I see you once again. When you can't do what you do.
Okay, great.
I want to say, don't pray. Down here we all understand. You can do what you do. You do what you can.
Yeah.
Un bel duetto, ragazzi, dai, un bel duetto. Bravo John.
Okay. So this is beautiful. I love this song. So people from all over the world,
We're ready.
Italia, be ready. We are the special guests, David Bergman, directly. Welcome.
Hey.
There you go. Wow. Are you with us here right now?
Great background.
I figured I'd make it all fancy for you guys.
Yeah.
My favorite Italians. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Bergman,
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming.
My pleasure.
Thanks for coming. There is people from all over the world, United States, South America, North America,
Canada.
Chile.
I was watching a little earlier, and I'm glad you're in English now. So thank you for those of us, those of us Americans. Thank you for being in English. I appreciate it.
For everyone, so perfect and great background also. But David, before you start, yesterday was your birthday, right?
It was my birthday yesterday. Yeah.
Our please, all the fans in your house, sing with us. Special David Bergman.
Oh no.
2, 3, 4. Happy
birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear David. Happy birthday to you.
Thank you very much. I can feel the love from all around the world. I appreciate it. It was very nice of you guys. Yeah, it was a big birthday for me. So not quite exactly how I expected to be spending it, but I'm happy to be here with you guys. So thank you for that.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much.
There are many comments here. So Afsha.
Oh, thank you, everybody. Yeah, I see all the comments. Thank you.
Catherine from Germany, Colleen, Spain. I
Amazing.
See from Spain.
So
ragazzi italiani, cercheremo di alternare un po' in italiano, un po' in inglese, però David parlerà chiaramente in maniera molto semplice, quindi seguite perché sarà un tuffo nel mondo dei Bon Jovi. Maura?
Esatto. We are thanking David so much and telling people to be very patient because we're speaking English from now on. So it's a plus for all our international guests. And we thank David a lot because yesterday was his birthday, so he couldn't join us yesterday, but is here with us tomorrow, which is very very important. Lo dico anche per i fan italiani, come avete ben capito dalla canzoncina, era il compleanno di David ieri, quindi non ha potuto essere con noi ieri e ci ha dato la disponibilità per oggi, lo ringraziamo tanto per questo.
Perfetto. Bergman,
you said it was going to be English now, huh? Okay.
This is for you. This is your presentation. This is David Bergman.
That's my best. That's the best picture of my face you'll ever see.
Yeah. A picture of you.
Wow.
Some of my work over the years.
This is your special one, I think. This is the Giga
Yeah,
Pan.
that was a big one. That was 2009, I guess. The Gigapan of President Obama's inauguration. That was crazy. That got 30 million views last I checked. So yeah, it was a big, wide panoramic shot, and you could zoom in and you could see all the faces in the crowd. So that was kind of cool.
Oh my God! Wow.
Excellent.
It's amazing.
Wow. This is your last tour, not Bon Jovi.
My last tour, my current tour, well, hopefully current soon again. But yes, an American country artist named Luke Combs. Look, I didn't know anything about country music before I started working with him. I'm a rock and roll guy, but the country music is huge all around the world. And I've been touring with him in the U.S. Last year we were on the road almost all year. So it was really fun. And then this year we were out up until, I guess it was, when did we stop that? I forget. We were in Europe about 2 months ago, and then obviously we had to come back. So I'm hoping we'll see what's happening with concerts. I certainly can't wait for the day we can all get back out on the road again. That'll be super fun.
Yeah, we all can wait.
Of course.
Let's hope soon. Let's hope soon.
Yeah.
So, Bergman, you can start your presentation.
It's not a real normal talk for me, but I mean, I was coming on with you guys, so I wanted to tell a couple stories about my experience with the Italian fans, of course, with Bon Jovi. I started with Bon Jovi in 2010. And I had photographed them a couple times before that, just being a member of the press over the years. I think, gosh, I don't know when the first time I photographed the band was, but I started working for the band in early 2010. Actually, yeah, we just would have been 10 years ago. I think it was February or March 2010. You can look it up. It was a show in Philadelphia. It was the first show I ever did with them. So, yeah, so it's been a little over 10 years now. Kind of crazy.
My God, yeah.
Crazy, but super fun. I mean, you guys know how fun it is being out on the road, meeting fans from all over the world. But yeah, it was I remember it was in here. Let's see. Can I just? I think I can share my screen here, right? Let me see.
Yes.
How I can do this. So, Let me share just the application. Give me 1 second. There we go, and we go play. Hey, look at that. So, are you guys seeing that now?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
The picture
Udain! Is it Udain?
There you go. So I'm actually I can't see you guys, just so you know, but I'm seeing the visuals. So actually, maybe I can control it here. Give me 1 second to see if I can control it from my phone, which I believe I can. And then, so this was my first experience with the fans in Italy, right? In say it in Italian. Udain?
Udine.
Udine in Italian.
Udine, right?
Sì.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. Look, I had been with the band at this point for about 1.5 years, and the fans are amazing, right? And people come up to me a lot at the shows and they say, oh, I'm doing something special. I'm proposing to my wife, or, a bunch of us are going to hold up lighters or something, something like that. People always would come up to me and tell me that. And I would try my best if I could, if I, the right time, if I happen to see it, I would photograph it, just because it's something different, something interesting. But this was kind of unusual because our friend Tommaso comes up to me. Are you guys still there? You're seeing him?
Yes.
Yeah, we see everything.
So this guy who I didn't know comes up to me. He's sweating from head to toe, right? He's totally drenched, so like he just came out of the shower, and he says, "Oh, we're doing this," and in broken English, "Oh, we're doing something special during this song, blah blah blah." I said, "Okay." Again, I'm thinking to myself, "All right, something small, whatever. Fine. If I remember when it happens, I'll photograph it." Well, you all know, of course, what happened, right? And I was able to make this picture, which you guys all know for sure. And I mean, it was insane. It was, you guys, I don't know how you pulled this off, but the whole stadium, it was like I always say like a Super Bowl halftime show, right? Everybody had cards, and I guess you had put things on everybody's seats, right? So they knew, all the fans knew when to do exactly when, and it's
with instruction.
Amazing. So the American flag on one side, it says Jovi on the other side, and this is Italy, welcome back, and all the Italian flags. It was amazing. So here's the thing. I was kind of under the stage when this happened, and I poked my head out, and I was like, wow, that's kind of a big deal, right? So what I did was, because it's funny you showed that Gigapen, because I had done that Gigapen, and I was used to doing pictures where you shoot multiple overlapping photos, I thought, because from on the stage, it was so wide, right? Like there's really nothing at the top or bottom. It's just really wide. So I with one lens, I really couldn't make a proper picture of the whole thing, right? So I knew I had to shoot it in pieces. And I don't think I've ever showed these, but I'm actually going to show you the actual pieces that I shot. So when you start over here, this is actually the first picture that I shot, right? And so I shot it just like that. And then what I want to do is make overlapping pictures all the way across. So I think I made 6 pictures of it all the way across, right? And then I got a little bit of John in there, and then a little more with John and Richie. And then I think I did one more. Yeah, just one more, right? So those are the 6 or 7 pictures, whatever it was, that I actually shot to combine to make that one big image, right? So now something else I do, I don't like to just be locked into having one camera or having one vantage point. So I also, most of the time, I put remote cameras on the stage and in different places. So I also had a camera that I could trigger remotely on the stage. So at the same time, I could make that picture without having to go and stand right behind John, because I don't like to do that during the show if I don't have to. So I was able to make the pictures from the side of the whole thing, and then also at the same time get that other picture. So it was kind of cool. And also, I believe this is the first time I saw this guy.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy?
I believe it was, I don't think we had met yet at that point. So, but somebody must have told me, or somebody must have said he's the guy that, was mostly responsible for this happening. So, so I made that picture as well. I'm sure, did I send that to you? I hope I sent that to you, but. Did I? Maybe not, but
I think you sent me.
I hope I did, but anyway. So that was my first experience with the crazy, wonderful Italian fans. And then, of course, as you know, 2 years later, we came back and I was in Milan. I remember making this picture.
Luca!
There was the runaway.
Yeah, that was the runaway. Was that? Was it the same day or was it the day before? It's probably the day before.
Yeah, before. The day before. Yeah.
You see, David. You see the difference. David, you see the difference. While we were working in the stadium, Luca was taking a picture with John, right? That's the fucking difference.
Yeah, so that now I knew you guys much better, so we were able to have some fun. And then that stadium was amazing, right? It's a giant stadium, and so it was an amazing show. And I knew I was bugging Max. I was like, you got to tell me. I know you guys are going to do something, but you got to tell me what you're going to do. I won't tell the band, I won't tell John, but if I know, I can make better pictures. So I don't know that you told me everything, but I knew it was going to happen twice. I knew there was 2 things. So that was good for me, because then I could shoot them from different places, right? I could do one down low and one up high, right? So the first one, I wanted to go up high and make a wide shot. And this was the car stage at the time. And if you can see in the top right corner of this stadium, they're all four corners. They have those like round things that I don't even know what they are. But inside, up in the top right corner of the picture, inside those things, there's a stairway. And that's how you get up to the very top, right? So they had to take me up there. Somebody took me up, somebody from the stadium, at a certain time during the show that I had coordinated with them, and I met them at one of those corners, probably the one, over the stage, and they took me up, and I walked up there and then walked over the stadium and was able to look straight down.
That's
So there's John, and you guys are probably all in that photo somewhere. I think I know most of the people in that picture, but
Wow.
that was like the song before, like when I was just getting up there and getting a feel for it. And then, of course, when the flags came out,
wow, beautiful.
Like that with the flags. And then when everything was up, now I did the same thing where I did multiple pictures, and I don't have to go through all of them, but this is I made 18 pictures.
Wow.
And you can sort of see how they overlap, right? The top row and then the middle row and then the bottom row. So it's 6 by 6, 6 and 6 and 6. So those are all the pictures that I shot of it, and then you put it together, and of course you get this, right?
The best.
Thank you. But then, hey, you guys did the work. This was the easy part, right? But then
not so easy.
But then again, because I knew you were doing it twice, when I was up high, I can only get that picture, right? And so then the second time I was down low, and I did pretty much the same thing I did the first time, where I did that panorama, the multi-shot from on the stage. And it worked out well, because when we did the workbook, that because I had two of those big wide panoramics, we were able to do that fold out in the workbook. So if I only had one of those, it wouldn't have worked quite as well. So it was nice that I had two.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
And then of course the end of the show, you can still have you still have the things up at the words up at the top there, and that was the very end of the show. So so that's pretty much. How do I get out of here? There we go. That's pretty much how I made those pictures. So it really was. You guys are insane. Like how I can't imagine the work that it took to put that together. All I had to do was photograph it, so that was easy. I'm glad I was there to document it, because it was so good that it was worth making, pictures of. And obviously having the access that I have, I could go anywhere and make, really make good angles of it. So thank you guys. Those were amazing.
Thank you for these memories.
Thank you, exactly. Thank you for the memories.
It was funny. When I was going back to pull the images, I knew I wanted the pictures that made up the panoramic, but finding that picture of Luca and finding the picture of Max, and that was really fun.
Yeah, it was really, really great.
I thought your fans might want to see those. So
so it was really great.
So I'm happy to take questions or whatever you guys want to talk about. I spent 10 years with the band. People ask me if
first I want to give you, this one is a fantastic book, and this one, I know that all the fans already know that, but just to show, Bergman said.
There you go, and then you open it up.
It's beautiful.
Like a Playboy centerfold, you can open it up.
One.
Yeah. And on the other side.
And because the picture was so very high resolution, a single picture, I don't know if it would have looked as good that big, because it wouldn't have had enough resolution, right? So because I had the multiple pictures, it had plenty of space, plenty of resolution to do it that big. So it worked out nice. Yeah. But that book, I'm of everything I've done some really fun things in my career. I've been fortunate, but I'm really proud of that book. I did 3 books with Bon Jovi so far, but that book is my favorite. So I'm really proud of it.
It's
our favorite too.
Me too. Yeah, exactly.
there is the first question. It's very accurate, I think.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, I see it here. Very first pictures out. Oh, many questions. Okay. Taking pictures. What very first camera. So, okay. I'll sum up my life story in 1 minute or less. Yeah, basically, the funny thing is I was a musician before I was a photographer. I played drums in high school. And I really thought I was going to be in the music field somehow. I actually wanted to be a producer, music producer. So I thought I was going to be working in the studio, in the music studio, producing albums. I never really wanted to be a performer, a drummer, like in a band. I mean, it would have been fun, but I just didn't have that. I didn't want to perform like that. But I thought I was going to be a producer. And at university, my first year, I was at the Berklee College of Music, which is a very well-known music college. And for a multitude of reasons, I transferred for my second year back to my hometown, which is Miami, Florida, the University of Miami. And I just stumbled into the school newspaper. I had a camera. This was in the late 80s, right? So now you know how old I am. And what birthday that was yesterday. And so I just like walked into I had a camera, an old film camera. It was a Canon AE1 program back then. And I was taking pictures of my friends' bands and that kind of thing, but I didn't really know anything about photography. And the school newspaper, I walked in one day and I was like, hey, how does this work? And the photo editor gave me a roll of film and said, go out and shoot. And if you make anything good, I'll show you how to process the film. And if there's anything good, I'll give you an assignment. And I went back the next week and we did all that. And he liked something he saw, so he gave me an assignment. And that's where it all started. I fell in love with. I liked being at the. I mean, look, half of this is the fact that I get to go places that people don't get to go, right? So I liked covering the events. I liked being on location at the places. And so my first job after university was at a newspaper. So I worked at the Miami Herald. I was a staff photographer there. And in my 20s, that was an amazing job because I got to cover everything. I did a lot of sports, but I did news, I did fashion, I did portraits, I did anything. At a newspaper, you cover everything, right? So that was really the first 10 years. If I look back now, I've been doing this almost 30 years. So it's like the first 10 was at the newspaper. The second 10 was really, I moved to New York City and started shooting a lot more sports. So mostly Sports Illustrated was my biggest client throughout that decade. And then the last decade has mostly been, it's all music. It's mostly Bon Jovi with a few other bands sprinkled in. So I mean, that's really where I started. I don't remember all the questions that were in there, but there's something about, well, I started shooting.
You also did the Torino Olympic Games, right?
I did, yes. I've done 5 Olympic Games. My first one was in Japan in 1998. 5 Olympics.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't keep track, but of course I do. I've done 5 Olympics, about a dozen Super Bowls. I don't know, probably.
Did you also do the tennis, the US Open in New York City?
I've done a little bit of US Open. Not a lot because by the time I moved to New York, they already had other people doing that. But I've done the US Open a couple times. There was a big tennis tournament in Miami it used to be called the Lipton.
Oh, yeah, the Miami.
Yeah, and now it's called the Miami Open or this whatever it's called.
Yeah, Miami Open.
Yep. So I covered that a lot, and that was in the 90s when I was at the Herald. So it was like Andre Agassi and Steffi Graf and
wow, sorry,
yep. I did
it was a long time ago.
I did a final once. It was Sampras and Agassi, and it was one of those like 5 sets, 4 hours just in the blaze.
They are 2 of my favorites. But is there a sport that you prefer as a photographer? I mean, is there a sport that you prefer?
I think football is my favorite. I mean, American football, I should say.
American football.
Yeah. I've covered a little bit of football, soccer, football, but mostly American football. It's just, I mean, I grew up watching it, and so I enjoy it a lot. And the action is so fun. There's a lot of action to shoot. The thing about the other major U.S. sports like basketball and hockey and baseball,
the NBA.
As a photographer, you're stuck in one spot. Like for basketball, you're sitting on the court, but you're just sitting there. You can't move, right? So the action, you have to really hope that the action comes in the right place. But American football, you move around, you move up and down the sideline. So I'm making decisions.
So it's not static.
Yeah, it's much more active.
Okay, David, there is another question from the people from home.
Just one?
Just one. There are hundreds.
Sandra, a picture of John Van you really like, we never published. It's funny. There's not one that I can think of offhand, but I will say the biggest difference for me when I was working at the newspaper as a journalist, you don't think about what the person in the photograph wants, right? Like you're just documenting whatever's happening. I would shoot a lot of concerts where I'm not working for the band. I'm just covering for the newspaper or for whatever press I was working for. And all you care about is making a great photograph, right? So when I moved to New York City and I went freelance, most of my clients all of a sudden now were the person who's hiring me is also the person in the pictures. So that's a big change because now I always talk about like wedding photographers. If you're a wedding photographer and you make a picture that's just gorgeous, right? Like the couple on the beach and the clouds open up and the sun's coming down and doves are flying, and it's just perfect. And the bride says, "Oh, I don't like how my nose looks," the picture goes away, right? So what I would do with the band was after every show, I would do my own edit, right? So I shoot thousands of photos on any night, every show. I shoot 4,000 to 5,000 pictures usually between the remote cameras and my other pictures. So it's a lot of pictures. So I usually, as soon as John would go to sleep, as soon as the band went to bed, I would start in my hotel room, editing away, right? And I would go until I started falling asleep, and then I would stop. And then I would finish in the morning, and then we might have a flight the next day. Let's say the band they were going to fly, they fly private, right? So they might be flying the next day. So when I get on the plane, as soon as I see John, he wants to see pictures, right? So I've worked with a lot of bands, and most of them have a manager or publicist or somebody who does like all the approvals on the photographs. John is the boss. He approves everything, right? He not just photography, everything goes through him. So he wanted to see the pictures. So I would edit down to like my favorite 40 or 50 pictures. And then we'd sit down on the plane while we're in the air, and I would show him pictures. If there's any he didn't like, he would just go, "Nah," and I go, "Okay," and it's gone. And I don't even
okay.
He's the boss, right? So
work call is in progress. Work call is in progress.
There is another question for $1 million.
Yeah.
$1 or $2 billion.
Good question.
Maybe another question.
If I share other pictures, yeah, that would no. If I share other pictures, some of those pictures, then whoever asked me that has to hire me full time. So that's I won't have a job anymore. But no, I mean, not just with Bon Jovi, but any client you work for, they want them to be happy. What's that?
Look this.
Yeah. I'm sure everybody knows, right, what that's about. Obie and Phil. I photographed it a couple times. It's in the book, in the This House Is Not for Sale book. There's a picture of it. But here's the thing: they were very superstitious, so nobody else could eat with them. You couldn't eat with them. It's just the two of them, so nobody else could eat. So I would sit down, I would photograph, and then I would go because you don't want to mess up their whole thing. But but just to finish, what's your favorite belly laugh? Oh gosh, that's a good one. You know what? I don't know.
You have belly hundreds of questions, right?
I know. You guys can give me the good one. Belly laugh. I don't know that I have a good belly laugh memory, but I mean, I'm honestly traveling with those guys was so amazing because look, I've traveled with other bands, with lots of bands. When the band, travels separately from the crew. The crew, there's about 100 crew members who travel like every other crew. They're on tour buses. They stay in nice hotels, no problem. But then the band travels on a private jet and they stay at really, really nice hotels. And I mean, for me as the photographer, I had to be with the band to photograph them. So there were like 14 or 15 of us that travel with that, with the band, and that's it. And I mean, there's nothing like coming off stage in front of 80,000 people and coming off the back and getting into a car, a line of cars with a police escort, right? and getting right out of there and going right to the private plane and getting on the plane and flying right back to an amazing hotel. I mean, it really was, working with them took me to another level, because I mean, it's such a professional organization and so well run that when, you know, if we were going to leave at 5 o'clock, at 4:30, you guys would see me. At 4:30, I'm in the lobby with my cameras on my shoulders, with my bags in the van, you know, just waiting, because if they leave at 4:45, I've got to be ready to go. So I can't, you don't just come strolling down, hey, where are we going today? You know, nope. If it's 5 o'clock, 4:30, you're ready to go. And everything's pre-planned. You know, if the band's going to dinner, they have to plan the route on how the cars are going to go, and they come in the back way, and there's a police escort, and it's a whole nother level of travel. But it was amazing. It was so, I mean, I hope I get to do it again with them one day, but it's just a level.
We hope too.
Who knows? It's a who knows, like everything right now.
See, everything is kind of right now.
I kind of have a question, but I don't know. Okay, no, the others first.
Appreciate the show from South Africa. Yes, so they did 2 nights in Philadelphia, and I did a Gigapan each of those nights, and that was my first day. That was the day that I met with management. I had been. So here's the backstory. I had been wanting to work with a band at that level for years, right? And to be honest, it didn't matter to me really who it was. I mean, I was trying to get in with one of the big stadium bands and travel the world as their photographer. So I had traveled with other bands in arenas and all that, and it was so much fun, but I wanted to go to that next level. And so just working in the business over the years, you meet people, you run into people. Anytime I would see somebody or meet somebody who had any connection to any, you know, the Stones, the Who, Madonna, you know, Katy Perry, anybody at that level, right? And Bon Jovi, it was one of those that kept coming back to me. I would run into somebody who was, you know, John's brother's, cousins, uncle's, lawyer's friend, you know, and
family.
And I would pitch them, and I would say, hey, you know, if you can get me something, you know, get a print to them or something. And so it took years. It really took years for me to finally get that meeting. I finally met the right person who could actually set up a meeting. And I had that meeting in Philadelphia. I live in New York City. I drove down to Philly. It's only about an hour and a half. I drove down to Philly with no intention of shooting. I just wanted to meet them, introduce them to myself. The tour had just started a few weeks earlier in 2010. And I got the meeting with the management team, and we started talking about the Gigapan. I really was talking about my normal photography first, my tour photography. And they were kind of like, yeah, you know, we've worked with photographers before. It's not that big a deal, whatever. And so I had to switch gears, and I thought, all right, I'll bring up the Gigapan. And so I talked about the Gigapan, and they all knew the Gigapan. They had seen the picture. John was at the inauguration. So they knew that picture, and we kind of were like, hey, they were thinking out loud, I wonder if we could ever do one at a concert. And the reality was I had never done one at a concert before, but I was like, oh yeah, totally. I could do it at a concert. It'd be great. And they were like, all right. And they were like, here you go. You can do it tonight. And I happened to have brought all of my gear in the car, not expecting to shoot. I wasn't expecting at all, but just in case, I had all the gear.
So you learned since the very first moment that you should have always been ready.
I've always done that, right? So that night I did a Gigapan, but here's the other part. So they were in Philly for 2 nights, and it's really an online thing. It's a web thing where you put the picture up, and then you can zoom in and you can see like all the faces in the crowd, right? But I didn't want to just bring it in on my computer. So I went back to New York. I worked on it all night because it takes a while to work on the picture. And I worked on it all night. And then I had it on the computer, but also something else I did was I had a friend of mine in Philadelphia. I sent it to him, and he made for me a giant print of the picture. And so when I came back the second day, earlier in the day, I came in, I said, oh, here it is on the computer. And they were like, that's cool. And I was like, oh, but wait, here you go. And and they all went, what? Wow, cool. So I did another one. You're hired. That's exactly what happened. I did another one that night, and they hired me for 5 more shows. Not the next 5, but like over the next couple of weeks. There was one in, I think it was in Miami or Fort Lauderdale, and like Atlanta, and a couple other dates. And so they hired me for those. So then I went back home all happy, and I flew to those other shows. And then while I was there, I said, hey, maybe I could shoot some other, some of my real pictures while I'm here. They were like, yeah, sure, it's fine, And so then that's how I started doing that. And eventually we dropped the Gigapan, and I just, continued doing my real pictures. So that's really how it all started for me with Jovi.
See, David, for sure, you are in the heart of all the fans all over the world, because you are kindly. And Ali, let's see this picture. About in 2013, in the tour program, there were many pictures from you, but this one is for all the fans that are following us tonight, and it's I think a thanks from the band, from you, from all the fans from all over the world, right? I think the fans can read absolutely. It's not only the sign around the entire Stadium Milan, or the fans in Lisbon waving thousands of balloons in colors of the Portuguese flag, or the Spanish fans who spelled out gracias. So love all over the world. This tour is entirely about the fans, veteran diehards, newcomers, travel far and near. So, and you know what? You were a part of this because your pictures were, very important to capture all the moments from John, from the fans, from everything. So really, I can say thanks by me, by everyone, I think.
Thank
everyone,
you.
Definitely.
Thank you. I mean, it's a joy and an honor. And I gotta say, I've never been with a band that has fans who travel from so far away to so many shows, I mean,
we are crazy.
In a good way. I mean, we did portraits of you guys and some of the other fans in the This House Is Not For Sale book. And there are people, some of them sitting here today, who have been to hundreds of shows, like all around the world. It's really a testament to the band and to the fans. And I mean, look, without the fans, none of us have a job, right? So it doesn't happen. None of it happens without the fans. So I would always hear the band talking about how amazing, and John especially, he gets it. I mean, he understands how amazing it is to have such a rabid fan base. So
there is
exactly. So
fans from Holland.
Thank you, Annette. Appreciate that.
Just a question now. You were you were a great photographer. Then you met John Bon Jovi and he hired you. It's not that you became great because of John Bon Jovi. You were great. Then he recognized it. He hired you. And you also teach people, right? And you taught him some it was any versions of parts. Finally, you were the one telling him what to do.
That was kind of fun. So here's the thing. We were obviously on the road for many years, and we'd be sitting together a lot on the plane or dinner or whatever. And I always had my camera. I was always taking pictures. And he's one of the things I love about him is he's curious, right? He likes to learn. He loves to learn new things. And he had a camera always, but he never knew how to use it, right? So, and he would get frustrated because he's very creative, and he would see something that he knew the picture in his mind that he wanted to make, but he couldn't translate it into the technology of the camera. He just didn't know how to do it. So as I was working, photographing him with the camera in his face for all those years, he started asking me questions. He would say, oh, how does this work? How does that work? And then the most fun was on a day off, he would call, or somebody would call me and say, hey, we're going to go shoot with John. John wants to go shoot. So let's go make some pictures. So it would just be me. Usually it was me, John, and Matt, right? And just the three of us would leave the hotel secretly. John would wear a hat, and we would go out the back and have a car take us somewhere. I remember we did it. I think it was in Vienna. And we just walked around Vienna like nobody bothered us. Nobody knew who he was. And he wanted to take pictures. And so he was now one of my students. It was probably the only time, like you said, that I really got to be the boss a little bit. And oh, don't do it that way. What are you doing? No, just kidding. But it's funny because, like I said, he has so there's two parts to anything creative, but especially to photography. There's the creative and there's the technical. The creative side is seeing things, right? And, you know, analyzing, figuring out what you want to do, composition, all those kinds of things. And then the technical is apertures and shutter speeds and using the camera and focus and all that. The creative side, he never had a problem with. He sometimes had a little trouble with the technical side.
The technical side.
Yeah, it's hard. But there's a reason. The reason is, and I'm going to give him, I always used to give him a hard time about this. We'd go out and spend the day doing this, and he would get it, right? He would, by the end of the day, he was feeling good. He was confident. And then we had a show the next day, and then we'd travel, and then he would go weeks without touching the camera. And the problem is that you forget.
He forgot.
Yeah, okay. He forget. So then a month later, he'd be like, oh, we got to go shoot again because I don't know what I'm doing, you know? So, so he was really funny about it, but he enjoyed it. I think he's still shooting a bit. I'm not sure how much of it he's doing, but yeah, when we did the workbook, we published a bunch of his photos in the book. Yeah, so that was true. So that was fun.
Even family photos.
Asa is.
Yeah, he really sort of had Matt and Beetle Paul photo. Yeah. So poor Matt. I love Matt. Matt's one of my best friends, and Matt Bon Jovi. I know you guys had him on last week. So we were at the 12-12-12 concert in New York City. It was after Hurricane Sandy, a big benefit show. It was an amazing lineup. It was Paul McCartney. It was Billy Joel, the Rolling Stones, Bruce Springsteen.
Big names.
Huge names. And of course, Bon Jovi. So I'm there with Bon Jovi, and as the band is walking around backstage, all the other artists are around, right? So John would, say hi to a few people here and there. And then at one point, Paul McCartney comes walking down, and I think all of us were like, holy crap, it's Paul McCartney, right? So, and John is a huge McCartney fan. He's a huge Beatles fan, as we all are. And he knew Paul. He had met him a number of times before. And like you said, he calls him Beetle Paul. And so they talk for like a second, and it's such pressure in this situation because there's so many people around, and I need to like get my way in there to make a picture of the two of them, right? So, but I also don't want to be too obnoxious. So they're kind of like not in the best position. So I wait like sort of to the side, like as soon as they're done, I'm going to pose them together, right? I get one or two pictures, and then I'm just waiting while they talk for a minute. And Matt is right in front of me, and all I'm thinking about is making the picture of John and Paul, right? Because it's like that's all. I'm like worried if Paul turns that way, I won't get it. If he comes this way, that's all I'm thinking about. And Matt's just standing there, and he's trying to be professional as well, but inside he's freaking out because it's Paul McCartney also. And I didn't even see Matt. I mean, he's right in front of me, but I really didn't see him. So I got sort of one picture where Paul's like over there and Matt's over there. And then later Matt comes up to me and he's like, you idiots, why did you not get a picture of me and Paul McCartney? How could you not do that? And I was like, oh man, I don't even like, I was so concentrating on making that picture of John and Paul that I've apologized 1,000 times. So when I told this story on the cruise, I followed up with a couple of years later. We were back at Madison Square Garden when Bon Jovi was playing there, and there's a picture of McCartney on the wall. And I was like, Matt, come here. And I put him in a picture of Matt with the photograph of McCartney. There you go. You finally got your picture. In the same
Not the same, but still.
Yeah, almost the same. So I'm sorry, Matt. I love you, man, but it's I sometimes, again, I'm so in the zone when things are going on that sometimes it's hard to like think about everything else that's going on. But
there is maybe the last question from the here is Piotr, maybe is from Paul. Maybe.
Like to we're going to the studio. Actually, I have a great story. So there was one time. Let's see, when would that have been? It was after a long break. It might have been before the 2017 tour, maybe. This House Not for Sale was 2017, I think, right? Is that when it was? But I think it was right before that tour, and they were rehearsing. They were recording the album, and then they were also rehearsing for the new tour. So when they do something like that, I don't go in every day. There's no reason for me to be there. The band is doing their own thing, but they might ask me to come in once near the end just to make some pictures for history. And so they happen to be recording in New York City. Again, it's my hometown, so it's very easy for me just to go down. So I go down there. The album was done, and it was already being mixed or whatever. And the band was just rehearsing for the tour. Now, when they rehearse for a tour, usually they work through some of the newer songs. They might do some of the old stuff just to make sure they're still, they still got it. And but generally they're not going to do like, the giant hits. They know those. They've done those 1,000 times. But for some reason, I don't know why, but for some reason, John goes, let's do Prayer. I was like, okay. Now, I've been on stage with them when they're doing Living on a Prayer, and I've been in the audience plenty of times when they're doing Living on a Prayer, but this was in the studio. Let me explain how the setup. So it's a relatively small room. This was at, what's the name of the studio? I'm blanking on the name of the studio, but we put out a picture from
Electric
Studios. Yeah.
Electric Lady? What's it called? Anyway, yeah. I think it's Electric Lady, maybe. Anyway, very famous. Lady, yeah. Yeah, very famous studio. So we're already in a famous studio where everybody has recorded, right? So the band is all along the outside of the room, right? So they're all against the walls. They have their amplifiers and keyboards and everything all around in a big circle, kind of against the walls. The only other person in the room is me, right? So I'm now in the middle of the room where I want to make like pictures of everybody, and I want to, I did a panoramic, and I just wanted to shoot all that. And they start playing Living on a Prayer. And I mean, literally, they're all facing me, right? And I'm alone in the middle of the room. And I had to, for 1 second, I had to put my camera down and go, this is insane. Like, this is not like a cover band at a bar singing Living on a Prayer. This is Bon Jovi.
Yes.
Living on a Prayer with all the musicians for me, for nobody else, just for me. So it was that moment I really had to stop and put the camera down just for a half a second. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love my life. Like, who gets to do this?
Exactly.
That was my favorite memory. What's that?
I remember when you told me the story about when John invited you for the first time in his private jet, you were on the plane. John was reading the newspaper, drink a coffee, and you were there, right in front of him with the camera, saying, "Okay."
So, and now, it's really funny was that everybody had not an assigned seat, but everybody sat in the same place every time, right? So now they add a new person, right? They know me, but it's still a person, so it changes the dynamic a little bit. And there's really no seat for me, right? So on that particular plane, they've taken different planes over the years, but on that plane, there was like a table and like two benches kind of where John would sit, and he had a big table and he could read the paper. And then to the side of that was a couch that faced sideways. Like you're on a plane, but you're not facing forward. It's like against the wall, right? Yeah. And it's a long couch, and there's nobody on that except it was the only place for me to sit. So the manager, whoever, told me, okay, you got to go sit there. So I'm sitting there and I'm like staring right at John. He's facing that way, right? I'm just like,
la, 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 la.
Like it was so awkward. I was like, I was just like, oh, badoo, like, what do I do now?
Can I touch these?
There are so many beautiful pics in that plane that are also public. They are beautiful. Moreover, when John broke his knees in Helsinki in 2011, you took many pics in that
You also
plane.
took a picture inside
the
hospital.
awesome work, my God.
Inside
the picture, incredible.
It is, yeah, it's in the book. I mean, that was one of those things where when it was happening, we really didn't think we'd ever publish those photos. Like people would ask him, "What are you going to do with these pictures?" And he'd say, they'll publish them after I'm dead. Like we just figured, just for history. He's very smart, and I pushed him a lot over the years to let me document stuff. And he's very smart because he understands how important it is. I mean, he knows he lives a very special life, and that by documenting it and with the knee story, when we were putting together the book, I went to him and I said, John, it's a great package to put in the book because it shows. I mean, you obviously came out the other end stronger than ever. You know, he was really injured badly, and I didn't know if his career was going to be over. You know, is this the end? And the fact that he had the surgery, he came out, and he came out much stronger is a great story. And he said to me, he said, you know what, if it inspires one kid to work through the pain and get through it and come out the other side, then it's worth it. For him to show himself vulnerable was a big deal. So I didn't take that lightly, and I tried to be as respectful as I could with the photographs, and he really, you know, it was really amazing that he let us put that out there. But yeah, but when, you know, the funny thing is I always push him, like I said, when he decided he was going to have the surgery, because there was some question as to whether he was going to have the operation or not. We were at dinner one night, and I was like, you know, John, I need to be in the operating room when you have that done, you know. I'm sure he was just like, Bergman, whatever, you know. And so I actually was in the I was wearing the mask and the scrubs and the whole thing, and was actually in the operating room while he was under anesthesia and having surgery. So it was, like I said, I take that responsibility very seriously to document that, and it really was amazing of him to let me do it.
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah. So,
wow, perfect. Yeah, great
you
story.
have a lot of stories.
I know.
I give us a lot of questions here. Wow.
Yeah.
But you told me at the beginning, you told me maybe Max, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes is okay. like your brother Matt, he told me last week. The same thing. Max, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour.
Both of us we like to talk, so it's okay. It's no problem.
No, the problem is if there was also Matt in this episode, maybe we need 3 hours just talking together.
We got together a couple times before the cruise, and we did some live streams with people for the cruise. That was fun. We had a good time doing that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Matt and I could go on and on for hours and hours for sure.
Yeah. So it's excellent. It's excellent. So if there are other questions, or
I'll take one or two more if you got them.
I have one question, but it's general. You know, some people like me, other fans like to take pictures during the concert. Do you have any tips with regular camera to take pictures?
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously the toughest part is that they don't allow usually good, big cameras in.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
I mean, with a small camera, it's tough. The first thing is you really have to be close. I mean, there's really no way around it. If you're far back, once you start getting into the digital zoom on the cameras have usually an optical zoom, which is a real lens zoom, and then it has a digital zoom, which really is just cropping the image. You don't want to do that. But once you've hit the end of that optical zoom, you really can't go any closer. So the real thing is to learn to shoot manual, because the manual exposure, I should say, because the problem is when you let the camera make decisions at a concert, it can be really tough. I'm sure you've all taken pictures where like somebody's in the spotlight and everything else is dark around it, right? And the problem is the camera tries to average all that out, and it doesn't know that all you care about is the person in the spotlight. So it's trying to brighten everything up. And so the spotlight's going to be totally washed out, too bright. You're not going to see any detail, any people sometimes, right? Yeah. So I think the biggest thing to learn is to shoot on manual. And once you figure out what your exposure is, you can just lock it in at that exposure and then not touch it, and then shoot that way all night long. I've done it. I've been in the audience where I have, a little point and shoot. Just lock it in on manual, shoot raw files if you can, so you have some, quality after, and just lock in that exposure. And it really doesn't. Here's another little secret. The light in the spotlight doesn't really change that much. For Jovi, I pretty much, when I'm in the front shooting the stage, I pretty much don't change my exposure, barely at all. Because even if all the things are changing around John, let's say, whoever's in the spotlight, the light on the person in the spotlight is pretty much the same all night long. So unless they turn the spotlight off for some reason, which they would never do. So a couple of little photo tips there. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
So anyway,
guys, I think it's okay for tonight. I think it's okay.
I'm getting a lot of
1 hour
Italian dinner offers. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. It's so fun. I miss you guys. I miss being on the road and
We miss you.
Yeah,
We miss you too a
We
lot.
hope to see.
Yeah.
We hope to see you soon, anywhere.
I hope
Yeah.
so. I was supposed to do so. I couldn't do Jovi's full U.S. tour this year because I'm out with Luke. But I was gonna do the 2 shows in New York at Madison Square Garden and probably the New Jersey show. I was gonna do maybe a few others. So I'm sure I was looking forward to seeing everybody. I'm sure everybody was kind of come to New York.
Yeah.
Let's hope. Maybe when we will be another tour, this one is cancelled. So let's see. Let's happen. We will do for sure.
I hope we can all get out together and hug each other and have drinks.
Yes.
And,
Yeah. We are like now we are like tigers in the cage, right? Right?
Yeah.
They say, "Open, you can travel."
You guys get Tiger? Do you have Tiger King in Italy? Do you watch Tiger King?
Tiger King. We don't
we have.
horrible American show, but
Right.
So, guys,
thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it.
Fans from all over the world. Thank you. Now we say we can salute David Bergman, and we can finish with 2 videos from Bon Jovi. So stay with us. But David, thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate you having me.
It was a real Bon Jovi world. Thank you.
Thanks to all the fans out there who are watching. I appreciate all of you.
Stay safe.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Ok, guys, ragazzi italiani, grazie di essere stati con noi. Adesso noi andiamo avanti, abbiamo ancora un 5-10 minuti. Facciamo una puntata di 1 ora e mezza. Abbiamo altri video che abbiamo preparato per concludere. Finiamo, mettiamo il saluto. Facciamo vedere la Who Says You Can Go Home di John. Allora, finiamo facendoci vedere 2 video. Il primo è Who Says You Can Go Home, la dedica di John a tutti gli ospedali. Maura, vuoi tradurre? Maura, vuoi?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Now we will broadcast greetings and thankful message of John Bon Jovi to the hospital, to all the frontline workers. We did the acoustic version of Who Says You Can Go Home, and also the Living on a Prayer.
Like salute. Yeah, let's start
right after.
Let's start
John
with this
Bon
one.
Jovi here. Sending this out to all the first responders in healthcare who are fighting the world's fight for all of us. Here in New York, I want to send a special heartfelt thank you to all the heroes at Mount Sinai Hospital and their system who are at the epicenter of this pandemic. Thank you guys for all that you're doing for all of us. And importantly, a global appeal to everyone. Stay home if you can. If you can't, social distance. That's something that we can all do to help win this war. Staying at home will save lives. Thank you.
Our hero.
If I may say, it's wonderful, this version. I love this version. Bellissima.
I would erase, lived a million miles of memories on that road.
Davvero un bel tributo.
Dedicated to everyone in the world.
I'm not alone, take her home from the boy, now the boy from his home. Well,
Che poi questa canzone è tanto sottovalutata magari nel resto del mondo, però per loro è un po' come un inno, non forte come Living on a Prayer ovviamente, però è un simbolo questa canzone in New Jersey, in America.
This is a beautiful version.
It's kind of a symbol there in New Jersey and in US, this song. It became a symbol of strength, of...
It's all right, hanging in. I will, baby. I love you. You be safe too. Love you.
He says you can't go home. It's all right.
Commovente, bellissimo.
And it's not just John Bon Jovi's thankful message, it's a thank you from all of us. I think non è solo un grazie da parte di John, ma è un grazie da parte di tutti noi e tutte queste persone che in questo periodo, non dimentichiamolo, stanno ancora lavorando tanto e non è passato, ragazzi. Teniamo ancora duro.
Ringraziamo tutti, teniamo duro. E noi ci siamo. E quindi we can say hi everyone from all over the world. Thanks for watching. Grazie a tutti gli
Thanks for
italiani.
coming.
Grazie a Ringo.
ragazzi.
Grazie ragazzi, davvero. Thanks everyone.
Grazie
Anche
a tutti.
oggi è da 4 settimane che vi facciamo e ci fate anche voi compagnia. Adesso
La prossima puntata non sappiamo quando sarà. Next episode we don't know when it will be broadcast, because if we have guests, it depends on the guests. So let's
When
see.
they can.
And when they can. And salutiamo tutti con la versione di Living on a Prayer.
per tutti i Tommy and Gina out there, to all the Tommys and Ginas out there.
Questo è John Bon Jovi.
Che ci fa compagnia nel modo migliore del mondo in questo periodo.
We thank Ringo, DJ Ringo from Virgin Radio Italy. Thank you very much, Ringo. We thank again, ringraziamo ancora David Bergman. Grandissimo. You are the best one. Your pictures are in the heart of every fan. Le tue foto sono nel cuore di tutti i fans. Grazie del tempo che ci hai dedicato. Thanks to all the fans from everywhere. Tonight, really, your love was from all over the world. Il vostro amore era davvero da tutto il mondo. Noi siamo i fans dei Bon Jovi e speriamo di portare nelle vostre case l'amore per la band.
It is streaming also on YouTube right now, so you'll find the videos over there. Ah, non lo sappiamo. Chi sarà il prossimo ospite?
Next guest, we don't know.
Surprise!
È sempre una sorpresa per gli ospiti, un tornallotto. Il giorno, l'ospite, è sempre un tornallotto. Noi quando possiamo facciamo quel che possiamo, va?
Noi quando ci sono ospiti di un certo tipo ci dobbiamo adeguare alle loro richieste, ai loro orari, e quindi può essere la prossima puntata mercoledì, maybe next episode Wednesday, Tuesday, Friday. At 6 p.m. in Italy, at 20 Saturday night. Let's see.
We do what we can to pull out the best for you. Quindi facciamo quel che possiamo per tirare fuori il meglio per voi.
Yes, Roberta, Bon Jovi fans. Permettimi la Bon Jovi fans.
Ce la fa Maura.
Thank you, Christy, for watching. Dov'era Bon Jovi fans are the best fans in the world? Bon Jovi fans are the best fans in the world.
Non so, perché
era bella, l'hai levata su. Speriamo, sì. Speriamo.
Problemi dalla regia, ragazzi.
No, perché lui parla, ma io ho la cuffia, quindi come non posso.
Michael said Desmond
Child. Non sarebbe male. Anche non sarebbero male.
O Billy Falcon.
Lo sapevo, guarda, lo sapevo. Ragazzi, io ho avuto un momento di stop sul finale, mi sentite ancora?
Sì,
Maura,
sì.
sei freezata. Maura è freezata.
Okay. Vabbè, tanto sto dietro alle foto del... Basta che mi sentiate. Adesso canto.
Tutti li hanno detti.
A fare i cupcake, dai, tutti a fare i cupcake la prossima volta. It's tough. È tosta, ragazzi.
Ok. Thank you, guys. Thank you from all over the
Thanks,
world.
everyone.
Thank you very much.
See you next time.
Everyone. See you next time. Bon Jovi fans are the best fans in the world.
Best fans in the
Alla
world.
prossima, ragazzi,
Rock
alla
and
prossima.
roll!
Yeah!